So people that are trying to say, well, this is the only way, or you have to do that, maybe just haven't been exposed to enough success stories, because I've seen it all. A better question is, what is right for me, and what is right for me today?
This is Running for Real, the podcast for runners who know that for every runner's high, there are just as many lows. All those just missed PRs, easy runs that feel hard, injury blues, and more. Each week, we'll talk to running, health, and wellness experts about their highs, lows, and best advice to build our confidence. Running for Real is about being honest, being brave, and most of all, not feeling alone. And now here's our host, Tina Muir.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 126 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. We are now in June. How is it June already? I am so excited. This is the month of kind of summer. I'm going home in a few weeks. Cannot wait. Last week, we had my husband Steve on the show. We were kind of answering your questions. We got through a lot of questions. I want to say there was over 20 of your questions that you submitted. We just kind of sat there and answered them. It was a bit of a kind of throw together episode, but it was planned because I'd heard you guys asking about it, and I thought it would be fun to kind of have him back on. So I hope you enjoyed that one. Today, we're talking about our metabolisms, and they are not evil like we've been kind of led to think, that they either are there to sabotage us or they're there to just kind of help us. So before I get into this episode, I just want to tell you a bit of a backstory. In case it wasn't obvious, I take real pride in the brands that I bring on as sponsors of this podcast. I know it seems nowadays like people are just speaking about anything and everything as a way to make money. And yes, ads on this podcast can be part of my income. But I also give you, the listener, 1 hour of free advice from these people who are giving up 1 hour of their time. And there's no other situation where we'd get an hour of someone's time like that. I hope you know by now that I really push my guests to give us the best knowledge they know. Nothing annoys me more than someone promoting a book or a product who doesn't actually give us anything helpful we can use in our lives, because they basically say, go read my book or go buy my product. Or if it's an elite runner, they don't give us anything real that we can use in our own lives, just kind of saying, I work hard, That's why that mental training week was hopefully helpful for you a few weeks ago. It was getting those experts to tell us the tactics that they have their athletes use. So when a brand reaches out to me to sponsor the podcast, I kind of go at it in 2 steps. Firstly, I look at it from a gut feeling. If I've used the product before and loved it, before they even approached me, I absolutely just jump in head first, like I did with Dang Foods that I mentioned a few weeks ago. They were a straight yes, because I was already loving and using their products before they even came along. If they seem like they're a good match and they could help my audience, like Athletic Greens, one of our sponsors today, I will try the product for a few months and see if it's a good fit and see if I actually believe in it, then either say yes or no. And if they seem completely off with what I kind of believe in and the direction I'm going, I pretty much say thanks, but no thanks. Why tell you all this? Well, because when today's brand first reached out to me, I did exactly that. I told them, thanks, but I don't think you're a good match for me. But then I reread their email and it just seemed really genuine, and just kind of, although their message, which initially was maybe about losing weight, which maybe that's just a sore spot for me and it kind of got my defenses up, my guards up, I decided to reach out to Angie and Trevor, my friends at Marathon Training Academy. You may know that podcast as well. I asked them, and they had worked with MetPro before. They could not say enough good things about MetPro, and particularly about Angelo. And so I agreed to a phone call with MetPro, and everything changed from there. I realized how just genuinely good they are, how they're this family who want to help people. And I realized that sometimes my realness can shoot me in the foot because I kind of judge brands by their cover. This company mentioned weight loss in their email, and I just shut down. But after I spoke to them and had some space to think, I realized that my method of running by feel, eating by feel isn't working for everyone. And I need to accept that. We're all different, and that's okay. Some people need more advice, more data, more structure. The more I dug into MetPro, the more I was fascinated with their founder, Angelo Poli, who was a TED speaker in 2013, talking about how our lifestyle is changing our posture forever because of our phones. And that was in 2013. Imagine what it is like now. 10 times worse, I'm sure. Anyway, Angelo seemed like he was bursting with knowledge, had a lot of impressive athletes who could not say enough good about him. And he seemed like someone who genuinely wanted to help the world be a better place by giving his knowledge out. That was confirmed when I spoke to him a few days before, the first guest ever, I think, who asked to chat with me before just to kind of get to know me, which I thought was pretty cool. So here we are. Today, I have the founder of MetPro, Angelo Poli, on the show. And if you're someone who's struggled with food, either to perform better, lose weight, gain weight, or just feel better for your future, he actually might have a solution for you, especially if maybe I have frustrated you with my kind of eat when you're hungry kind of attitude. So after a thank you to our wonderful sponsors, Body Health and Athletic Greens, let's go meet Angelo and see what you think. Thank you to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast. I have been using Athletic Greens for the last 3 months and I feel so good waking up every morning. Okay, I missed 3 days total. I can admit that. This is Running For Real. Anyway, every morning I mix a scoop of Athletic Greens in 14 ounces of water to get 75 whole food sourced ingredients, vitamins, minerals, digestive enzymes, prebiotics, probiotics, and the antioxidant equivalent of 12 servings of fruit and vegetables before my daughter even opened her eyes for the day. Of course, I always try to eat well, but in reality, a lot of the time it ends up being a little less than perfect. Like, this gives you all the goodness without the messy juicer or having to spend $300 on fresh fruit that you'll probably waste half of when you get too busy to prepare it. Athletic Greens is made for busy people like you and me, and I loved how easily it just slotted into my routine. I'm sure it will be the same with yours. You can get a 20-count travel pack with your first order worth $79 by visiting athleticgreens.com/Tina. That's athleticgreens.com/Tina. Thank you to Body Health for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast. You know I love this brand. I have talked about them for years. Their amino acid supplement contains all 8 of the essential amino acids that we need to repair our bodies. If you are about to step into some heavy training this summer, this is the ideal time to add perfect amino to your diet. There is a 100% money back guarantee, and it will help you recover faster. It certainly did for me, and I hope you are the same. What do you have to lose? Go get yourself some Body Health Perfect Amino. Visit tinamuir.com/aminos. That's TINAMUIR/aminos to go get yourself some and get 10% off. Angelo, I am so excited to have you on the Running For Real podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Tina. The pleasure is all mine.
No, this is going to be great. And I want to start by telling my listeners that, honestly, I've told you this already. I was a bit skeptical of you, of MetPro, and actually researching you, I'm not the first person to say that. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, this is very much, diet, nutrition is very much a touchy subject. It's something that people are very sensitive about. Yeah. And I was skeptical, as I've told you, because I found what worked for me. But you and your team were not kind of put off by my initial refusal of kind of when I first was contacted by your team. I said, no, I don't really think this is for me. But they kind of explained a little more, got me on the phone and completely won me over. And I just felt so good about you, about them, about the whole company. So I'm looking forward to telling my listeners about that. But I just want to have my listeners kind of understand that I was very skeptical of Angelo and what he does at first. But go in with an open mind. Don't worry, we're not talking about some kind of voodoo magic. This is something pretty simple and normal. But I know a lot of my listeners have frustration in this area, particularly with me saying, I just eat what I want when I want. And I know that doesn't work for everyone. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. But firstly, going to you, founder of MetPro, we're going to talk about what that is soon. You are a TEDx speaker. I loved your TED Talk.
Oh, thank you.
And have worked with many professional athletes, many, celebrities, just kind of all kinds of CEOs and high power players within your work. Worked with Aaron Rodgers, who is a Green Bay quarterback, correct?
Yes, and a great guy. Yeah.
And so I want to talk a little bit about your story, getting to this point. You know, I mentioned some of your accomplishments, some of your, stats. But for someone listening thinking, well, he must have just got a lucky break. Maybe he's been fit his whole life. Maybe tell us about some of the bumps in the road, as I know there are some.
Yeah, not so much. So I almost didn't end up here. I would actually, just before I was visiting with you this morning, I was just sharing this story with somebody else. I walked with a cane for almost a decade. When I was in my early 20s, I had a severe injury that turned into a chronic condition. And I almost left the fitness and nutrition coaching scene.
So that was before you were already in the industry.
I was in the industry. I was young. I got into the industry while I was just, 18, 19. So this was just a few years into it. Yeah. And I had to really work on my own mindset and kind of reevaluate how I viewed myself. I'd always thought of myself as I'm an athlete, and that was part of my identity. And so part of how I viewed myself, I had to shift and really focus on, I can derive a lot of satisfaction in life as an educator. And I guess the adage is true. Those who can't do, teach. And I would say that I ended up into that category. But what it did was it forced me down a path, if I wanted to stay in this industry, of really becoming super focused on the educational component, the analytics component, and diagnostics. So I could really give my clients and the people that were really putting faith in me. That's not a small thing to come and say, okay, tell me what to do, and I'm going to follow your advice. I don't take that lightly. When somebody's coming to me, and now the experts in my company, to really be able to give them a logical, justified, well thought out strategy plan and options. So the one thing I can say is that my viewpoint is a little different. I've been quite far removed from that injury. 10 years later, I had a fairly aggressive surgery that put me on the path to healing. But all throughout that time, as an educator, I would do seminars and lectures, and then I would oversee a lot of wellness and fitness programs. My path to helping people with their personal transformations, I try to learn at least one thing from every client I work with. And I think that's critical. So people ask me, how'd you get your education? And I can rattle off, the studies I've done and the certifications, but truly my education has come from the clients that I've worked with. And the take home message is, I've seen every approach work. There is no right or wrong. That's probably the only thing that I'm staunch on. There is no one way is right. I've seen every approach work. And so people that are trying to say, well, this is the only way, or you have to do that, maybe just haven't been exposed to enough success stories, because I've seen it all. A better question is, what is right for me and what is right for me today? So I'm really passionate about helping people identify where their leverage points are, because there's a lot of good strategies, but they're not all going to give the same return on investment. So many people, Angelo, I've read about this or that strategy or this training or that exercise. What's best? And the only way you can really answer that question is if you have a really good idea of where that person is at. So I don't want to dive in too early, but we get into 5 areas that we look at to help determine where a person is at, so we can feel good about the steps and the roadmap that we provide for them. And so that's how I ended up here today.
And I definitely want to go into those later in the episode. But just before we move on from that, when you were doing this, working with clients, but you yourself were struggling with this injury, as you said, you had a cane. Did any part of you struggle with imposter syndrome, kind of feeling like, oh, I don't know if I should be doing this? How can I tell someone this is what they need to do when I'm struggling myself with my own health?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you identify yourself as, I'm an athlete and here I'm, and not just the physical part. If we're being candid, I saw my way to the bottom of a couple Burger King bags, and it's not just the pain; it's the depression, despair, all the things that come with it. So when I talk to people, it's easy somebody think, well, you're that guy that's always been fit. And I don't mean personally. I think just in general, we look at people in the fitness industry as it's always been easy for you. Mm-hmm. And it has not. It is not, as in my case, at least. And I think that's really set the tone for how I approach working with people. People are good. People are generally good and want to do good things, want to love other people, want to improve themselves in good ways. But the reality is that we live in a time and a world that we're all stressed, we're all pressured, there's anxiety, all of these subtle influencers that disrupt our good intentions. And so that's where really our focus lies in the skill set of how do we protect our own health, wellness, fitness, improve our performance, or whatever. Because it ranges. Everybody will call us and come to us for a different reason. But at the end of the day, the missing ingredient isn't a choice. It's a skill.
Thank you to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. I always wish I could be one of those juicer people who got up every morning, stuck a load of vegetables and fruit in a juicer, drank it down as the sun rose, except I'm not that sophisticated. I definitely don't have a juicer. And the idea of cleaning a juicer every day makes me feel stressed, even thinking about it with all the bits where food could get stuck and just no thank you. I did spend a lot of my time feeling paranoid that I wasn't getting enough fruits and vegetables. And so I thought, what can I do about this? I was so good at it before, but I've just lost my ability to be good with that in the last year. Notice I said I was because I do now have a solution. Every morning I wake up, go downstairs, fill my shaker with water and add a scoop of Athletic Greens. It has 75 carefully selected ingredients which cover the 5 important areas of our health, and the formula builds on the work that you put in, providing daily support where your diet may fall short, like mine does. I've been amazed about how easily it fit into my schedule, and it means I get 12 ounces of water down before I even eat anything, which is how I always wanted to start my day. I just never did. And let me just mention, it does taste good too. It's been months since I started this, and I love the way it makes me feel and just how much stress it's taken from my shoulders about not getting enough in. Don't get me wrong, I still try to eat really well, but some days, just being real, it isn't going to happen. Now you, my friends, can get a free 30-day travel pack with your first order valued at $79 by visiting athleticgreens.com/Tina and give it a try. I love it. I think you will too. That's athleticgreens.com/Tina.
Our focus lies in the skill set of how do we protect our own health, wellness, fitness, improve our performance, or whatever. Because it ranges. Everybody will call us and come to us for a different reason. But at the end of the day, the missing ingredient isn't a choice. It's a skill. So in other words, when I do my seminars, I say, raise your hand if you want to get healthy and fit. It's not a choice. Everybody's going to say, yeah, sign me up for that. It's now, are you equipped with the life skills, the strategies, and the tools to follow through with that? Because if not, it's not something you can't say, I want to be an accountant, and then the next day you start up an accounting office. No, you got to go to school. You got to have somebody teach you. It's the same thing with health and fitness. Now, I will add an asterisk to this. For somebody who is simply aiming to, through nutrition, through exercise, improve their health and performance, there's a much broader scope of options and steps for them to take. If you add to that list of goals an aesthetic component, then your action steps have to become a little bit more calculated. And it's not fair, but I would definitely say of the, almost 20,000 people that I've been a part of coaching now in my career, achieving a physical transformation in step with a health and wellness transformation does require, for some people, a greater level of specificity. And so it's a matter of cutting through the clutter and the noise. What's right for me? Mm-hmm. And so that's what we focus on.
I want to ask you a question, which might be kind of difficult to answer. That's just kind of come up with that aesthetic thing.
Okay.
As you said, you have kind of had a part in up to 20,000 people, their lives. A lot of people who have worked with you have talked about how you have changed their life, how much confident they feel. Have you had some cases of people that have maybe tried to change aesthetically and have maybe lost weight, maybe toned down, maybe look like the people in those, those lose weight commercials or whatever, but then kind of got there and thought, you know what, like actually, this isn't what I thought it was. I like it doesn't fill the void as people would think it would.
I know exactly what you're saying. The answer is yes. I can tell you, we don't have 100 coaches at a call center. We're a small team of experts, and we talk together about, we're like a family working with our clients. We talk about this all the time. There is a definitive shift when we know somebody is going to make this lifelong positive behavior change, and when somebody is probably going to slide back into previous habits. And it's psychological, because it's fine to have goals. And I'd love to talk about goal setting, because that's a big part of some of the stuff we do. But it has to be, you have to cross that threshold where you're eating clean, you're exercising regularly, because you're passionate about that lifestyle, because you want to. If you're just doing it, well, I want to lose 5 pounds, or I want to lift a little bit more weight on my squat, or I want it, whatever it is, it's going to be fleeting. And that's the difference really between goals and values. So a classic case of why I prefer values over goals. Think of a couple getting married. I get lots of people. I'm engaged. Here's my wedding day, guys and gals. And so will come to me like, I need to be in this outfit. I want to look great on this day. I'm like, excellent. We're going to do it. But you have to promise me this is a goal that's just one step on the route to adopting a value system for how you want to live your life. Otherwise, you're going to get in great shape for 3 months. And then 3 months later, you're going to be right back where you started. Mm-hmm. So what you said absolutely makes sense and resonates with me as a coach, because I can see that. I can see that switch in people when they reach that point.
And what if someone would say to you, yeah, I'll deal with that later, but, just get me there now. Like, is there some part of you that kind of says, maybe is there some other things going on in your own confidence and your own self-worth? Do you value yourself as a person? Do you see a lot of that people are trying to get the aesthetics to kind of think that, oh, I'll be confident if I get to there, and then I'll just, stay there, rather than them saying, okay, I need to be confident in who I am first, and then I can work on that. I don't know if that's going to be the same kind of answer. Maybe it is, but. Yeah,
no, I would say a lot of people deal with those emotions and that thought process to a lesser or greater degree. But if that is the main focus, then we really do try and stay in our lane. Mm-hmm. We end up being the support, the friend, the accountability, and the strategists. Mm. But if somebody needs that mentoring in their life, I have a number of coaches that I've gotten to know over the years that specialize in that. And it's not that I haven't definitely gone down those paths with people, but it's like anything. I tell someone, if you're going to have surgery on your shoulder, you want to go to the guy that does shoulder surgery 24/7, that specializes in that. If you're going to have surgery on your knee, you're going to go to the guy that does knees 24/7. So I'm the guy that does diagnostics. I'm the guy that does strategy. I'll get people call me up, Angelo, I know about your company. I know who you are. Here's what I want. I want a sub 6-minute mile. I want to bench 300 pounds and I want to drop to this % body fat. Can you get me there? And then it's like, yeah, I can get you there. Now here's what you have to do. Yep. Pick which one you want to do first. Because if you try and do all of them, you're going to accomplish none of them. Mm-hmm. So let's check one box and then move on to the next. Tell me all about yourself and we're going to figure out how we're going to get there together. Love that. Okay. Thank you. That's great. Good answer there. Oh, thank you. All right. Now I'm going to ask you something a little
difficult here, which is when I first met my
More
strength
difficult
training
than the
coach.
last ones. Oh
Yeah, I
man,
know.
no,
No,
aren't
you got many more to come. I warned you
Oh,
before this
boy.
interview. I was going to challenge you. So when I met my strength training coach, Drew, I had a running coach, I had a sports psychologist, but I didn't have a strength coach. And when I met him, he was not very fond of runners. He thought we were kind of a bit of a, like, not stupid bunch, but we would make the same mistakes over and over again. We didn't really vary our activities and exercises, our dimension. Is it planes? That's what you call it, right? Where you're moving in different planes.
Planes of motion. Yeah.
And I've won him over the years. He now works with a lot of runners. But when you first came into the industry, what were your thoughts? And maybe what are your thoughts now of runners? Do you have you had to learn over the years that we are our own, essentially, kind of breed to the rest of the kind of fitness world?
Yes. I'm actually particularly passionate about runners and endurance athletes as a category. And that's just because it plays very well into my personal brand of geekiness. Mm-hmm. Though a lot of people know me from the athletes that I work with in team sports, because they tend to be the most recognizable names, et cetera, et cetera. That's great. But, talk football, talk baseball, they're team sports. And at the end of the day, it's a team effort. What I love about running, cycling, and so many other personal sports is it's an absolute baseline testing where you get to measure yourself against your own performance. It's not about anyone else. And so you can see immediately, hey, I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to run a 5K. That's my first goal. I just want to be able to complete a 5K. And when you cross that threshold, it's something you could never do before. And that's a victory. And then, hey, I want to do a marathon. Mm-hmm. Now I want to go back and I want to do it and beat my time. And guess what? When you go and you do that next run, you're going to have the efficacy or lack thereof of all of your efforts in training and nutrition and preparation leading up to it exposed, which is an opportunity to learn and get better. So I'm particularly passionate, and we work with quite a few runners. Actually, our managing dietitian is a passionate runner herself. And so this is a sport that is very, very near and dear to me. Although I do joke, I say, people say, oh, I'm just a runner. I'm not doing any of those real intense sports. I'm like, not intense. Statistically, there's actually more injuries in training for a marathon than there are in playing in the NFL. Now,
really?
The scope, the severity of injuries is not as bad, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But you got to take care of your body and prepare it for the rigors of training to run, especially if you're going to go back the next day and do it the next day. And that's all part of it, fuel and the whole 9 yards.
Okay. So now you've proved to us that you do understand running. You do get it. So I think you've kind of won some people over with that.
Aww.
Now, let's talk about the metabolism. Now, you are very passionate to kind of talk about this, and how I know many of my listeners have talked about, struggling to lose weight, struggling to kind of feel like their body is functioning as it should be, but they feel like they're barely eating and they're still not losing weight. Explain to us what the metabolism is and how it's not just a case of I have a slow or I have a fast and you're kind of born with it or you're not. Tell us about what you found.
So it's not in your head. Here is the unfortunate and often aggravating reality, and that is there's nothing fair about metabolism. So many times I can almost say verbatim the words that are going to come out of somebody's mouth. It's like, I've done XYZ and XYZ, or I've done everything that I'm supposed to, yet why isn't my body XYZ? So there's this expectation that if I'm doing something right, then I'm going to get this outcome. Mm-hmm. And it should work like that, but it does not. So again, I'm more of a data geek. So I evaluate. Mm-hmm. And part of that is just there has to be hardcore honesty involved. So I always use the example, and these are extremes, right? Most people are going to fall somewhere in between, but these are extremes. But I got a gal right now, she's 113 pounds. I mean, she's like this little itty bitty thing. She does some running, And, she's eating easily over 3,500 calories a day. If she so much as misses a snack, she wakes up the next day a pound lighter. Does it mathematically add up? That is her reality. I'll get off the phone with her and then I'll talk. I got a guy who's a super nice guy, hard worker. He gets on his elliptical 5 to 6 days a week. He weighs 323 pounds. He's eating under 2,000 calories a day. It's about 1,800. And if he is fortunate, he'll take off half a pound to 1 pound a week with that. And that shouldn't be mathematically possible. It just shouldn't be. By everything we know, that can't be possible, but it is.
Thank you to Body Health for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. This longtime supporter of me and Running for Real has allowed me to feel good on my run for years, as Perfect Amino contains the 8 essential amino acids that the body needs to support and maintain its muscular, skeletal, enzymatic, that is such a hard word to say, and hormonal systems. The essential amino acids in Perfect Amino are in the exact proportions needed for maximum utilization by our body. What does that mean, you're wondering? Perfect Amino is an amino acid supplement that is 99% utilized by the body to make protein, whereas protein in meat or eggs might be utilized by up to 50%. Quite a big difference there. If you're still confused, you can find out more information by visiting tinamuir.com/aminos to learn more and also get 10% off your order of everything on the Body Health website, and they have a lot of awesome products for a healthy and sound body, especially if you're coming at health from a holistic standpoint, and that's really important to you. They have a lot of stuff I think you might be interested in. Now back to Perfect Amino, it absorbs quickly and you can just get on with your day knowing that you have got this recovery process going. You can get 10% off your order by visiting tinamuir.com/aminos. That's TINAMUIR.com/AMINOS. And thank you so much for showing Body Health. We appreciate them by your order.
I got a gal right now, she's 113 pounds. I mean, she's like this little itty bitty thing. She does some running and, she's eating easily over 3,500 calories a day. If she so much as misses a snack, she wakes up the next day a pound lighter. Does it mathematically add up? That is her reality. I'll get off the phone with her and then I'll talk. I got a guy who's a super nice guy, hard worker. He gets on his elliptical 5 to 6 days a week. He weighs 323 pounds. He's eating under 2,000 calories a day. It's about 1,800. And if he is fortunate, he'll take off half a pound to 1 pound a week with that. And that shouldn't be mathematically possible. It just shouldn't be. By everything we know, that can't be possible, but it is. He's not lying. He's not making stuff up. This is his reality. So my job isn't to say what should or shouldn't be. My job is to evaluate what is. And that's our whole system. MetPro is not a diet. Metabolic profiling is not a diet. We'll tell you, okay, here's the best strategy for you. Here's options. Here's what we think. Metabolic profiling is just that. It's analysis of your metabolism, where your body is at today, which, by the way, may be very different from where it was even just a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. And with that information, then we can make some rational recommendations versus just stabbing in the dark. There's a lot, I hear all the time, lots of people coming to me saying, oh, I tried this modality or this method or this plan and it's no good. It didn't work. It's not that it's not good. It's that what we really needed to do is have a better understanding of where your body is today and where you're starting, because then we can figure out what angle we have the most leverage from. There's a number of biological tools out there. There's calorie control, there's carbohydrate control, there's exercise, there's meal timing. So there's a plethora. Which one is going to be the right tool at the right time? And that's what we're trying to determine when we really do a critical analysis of how your body is responding. Mm-hmm. So to me, having the data is one of the most important components for someone who is wanting to delve into a more granular step by step, bite for bite, workout by workout approach.
And what is the testing that you do or the data that you collect to kind of figure this out?
That's a great question. So what we do is we use essentially a control diet, a benchmark, a baseline. So it's not designed for you to lose weight. It's not designed to gain weight. It's not designed for anything other than to eliminate variables. So here's a meal plan. I know exactly how many meals you're eating. I know how many calories are in this meal plan. I know the glycemic load of each meal, the frequency, the timing, how many grams of carbs you're getting, how many grams of fat you're getting, the whole shebang. And I'm going to have you follow this. Now, here's the thing about this meal plan. I've had thousands and thousands of other people similar to you also follow it, and all of their results right here. And some people gained weight, some people lost weight, some people this, that, the other. What I want to see is, based on the averages that I've collected, where do you land? And that's so important. Now, just last week, I had a guy on his baseline meal plan. He dropped 5 pounds. He goes, was I supposed to lose weight? I'm like, no. Is that a bad thing? No.
Is that in a week or how long?
Yeah, a little over a week.
Okay.
We usually baseline test for about 72 hours, but we will then often fine tune and extend it. So he came back, he's like, I lost 5 pounds. Well, I mean, that's huge in telling me where his metabolism is. So now I can readjust his strategy, his nutrition, his training, everything to match the fact that he has a faster metabolic rate going into this. But then I have people that baseline test and like, yeah, I went up 2 pounds in this week. So that's not necessarily great news if that person's goal was weight loss, but it's real news. It's truth. And it's important to know, so we can now take that and use that to not waste time with something that was never going to work in the first place.
Okay. Yep.
So that dovetails, and I don't know if you want to dive into this yet, but how we determine if someone's strategic or metabolic. But you decide what direction you want to go. I'll talk all day. You got to shut me up sometimes.
Oh no, you were doing great. But what I want to do is, for the skeptics out there, now I want to ask you some of the questions that I'm sure are going through people's minds.
Okay.
Before we kind of get any further, so that this doesn't kind of come across as that, this has all been planned like this. You don't know these are coming. So
I don't know these are coming.
The first thing, we've kind of gone over, I've tried every diet. Why is this different? But for someone who is thinking, okay, the numbers on the scale, you're telling me to, 100, this girl was 113 pounds, now weighs 112. What if someone is saying, okay, but I want to get away from the scale? Like I already obsess about numbers. And if you are giving me numbers and exact things to be eating, even for a week or even, for however long they are working with you, that's not going to help me. That's going to make me more obsessed with numbers. What would you say there?
I would say probably then this approach isn't right for you. Okay. There are lots of great approaches out there that are. That said, I'm not a big scale number guy.
Okay.
I am during the evaluation, because that's going to be directional. So I need to see how your body is responding against this basically controlled diet. From there, I actually spend more time trying to get people to get off the scale. Okay. That said, and I have a saying, the scale lies, but your clothes don't. The mirror doesn't. And so if I am uncertain where somebody is going directionally, I'm going to rely a lot more on because I'm looking at body composition. So keep in mind, we get both ends of the spectrum. We get a lot of athletes where this is not about weight at all. This is about optimizing performance, their composition, and all of those things. Then I have people that they're here because their doctor says, we got to take off 100, 150 pounds. We've had some folks we've worked with that have come in starting over 500 pounds. I need to say the scale drop, and they do too. That's important because that's their health. Yeah. So it really depends on where somebody is coming in, and then what the next steps are is going to be determined by what we learn in that initial baseline testing. I like to tell people that we are diet agnostic, or we're not. Somebody says, well, I prefer this style of eating or that style of eating. We're for all of it. What we want is purposeful. and this kind of gets into the strategic versus metabolic. So you mentioned this. I'm going to take liberty here because you said I've tried every diet and why is this different? One of the things that we have to determine is, do you fall under the strategic category or metabolic category? And spoiler, if that's you, if you're saying I've tried every program and it hasn't worked, why is this different? You're probably under the metabolic category. So I'll explain those. Mm-hmm. So people that we classify as strategic is essentially everyone. Everybody's strategic. And what that means is your body will respond well to consistency, to clean eating, to regular exercise, and a good strategy. The challenge is to be consistent and to otherwise implement that into your life. That's why people are sometimes surprised. I thought I was hiring you for nutrition, or I thought I was hiring you for training. Why are you asking me about my work schedule and my family and who I take meals with at these times? Like, no, those are the most important pieces. Those are going to dictate what we're going to be successful or not successful doing and really shape our strategy. So that's where a lot of people are strategic. Again, they make that decision. Yeah, I want to get fit and healthy, but they need the life skills. I'll give you just a real brief example of that. I am always really hypersensitive to who do you take meals with when? Because if somebody is like, well, this is my family meal, and so we prepare different things, I'm going to purposefully budget, allocate more options and more variety into that meal. Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to assign them some snacks. You know, I love snacks because we don't take them socially. So if I have my executive and I say to him, hey, John, I want you to eat an apple with some almond butter on it at 2:30. What's he going to do? Say no? I'm like, no, he'll follow through with that. What's stopping him, right? That's not that hard. Mm-hmm. So how we do things is real. And that all encompasses strategic. Now, metabolic. I think this is what probably some of your listeners are like waiting for. Mm-hmm. The frustrating reality is there are a number of people out there that are doing everything right, and yet nothing's budging. So for those of you that feel you're in that category, here's what I would tell you. Restricting your intake, expending more calories, becoming more active, none of those routes are likely to be the answer. What we have to do is we have to rehabilitate your metabolism first. So some people have enough leverage to start. And I'm just using weight loss as a general vehicle here. This applies in both directions. Mm-hmm. Some people have enough metabolic leverage to begin a diet down process right out of the gate. Others need to actually start with a strategy aimed at speeding their metabolism first. And regardless of where you are, genetic predisposition, where your metabolism is today, almost everyone will eventually reach that point. So, for example, I have a gentleman who is, he's down over 100 pounds, but he still has about 50 to go. And we have been able to, in a fairly linear fashion, get about 100 pounds off. I'm not going to be able to get any more weight off of him going in this direction because his body adapts. And so it's used to, he's doing a great nutrition plan. He has a great training schedule, but his body has acclimated to that. So now what we're doing is we're moving into a performance cycle where it's about challenging his metabolism to speed up by giving him a little more fuel. And that fuel gives him a little more energy so he can go that extra mile with his exercise. And then he comes back and he says, hey, I lost a pound. I said, guess what we're going to do? We're going to gain it back. I'm going to give you more food. And then he comes, hey, I lost that pound. We're going to gain it back again. I mean, more and more. And what that does is it's putting money into his metabolic bank account. So I have leverage so that way I can get that next 50. So it has to go in cycles. And so this is kind of important because we can be influenced sometimes by media and what we're seeing on TV. There's a lot of popular weight loss shows. There is and has been. And by the way, I know a number of the coaches on these shows, and they're genuine great people that are doing great things. But as a critical analysis, we're looking here to learn. So aggressive weight loss or restriction, whether it comes from excessive exercise or excessive reduction in intake, will result in some weight loss, but it always results in a counteractive slowing of the metabolism. Your body has to. Otherwise, eventually you would lose, waste away and die. So our body's survival mechanic is it finds a way to become more efficient.
Yep.
So that means that if you do have, now I'm speaking more to people that have a significant amount of weight to lose for their health. If you do have a significant amount, the right way to do it is we have to do it in stages. So someone with 100 pounds to lose, and this is an exact roadmap, but I might take them down 30, 35 pounds and then pause. Now we're going to spend weeks, maybe even a couple months, but probably, between 3 to 6 weeks. Let's rehabilitate your metabolism. Let's give you some more fuel. Let's stop this direction of your metabolism getting used to the lower intake, bring you back up. Then we go for round 2. And now we take another 20 pounds off and rinse and repeat. And it's not a set, as soon as you lose this many pounds, we do this. No, it's as soon as your body is giving us indications that it's acclimating, wearing out, fatiguing, we have to listen to it and believe it and listen to what your body is saying and make those changes. So that's why everyone's trajectory is different. So there's no one size fits all. It's a matter of figuring out what's right for you. Now, some people are saying, well, look, Angelo, I'm not trying to lose 100 pounds. I got 8 pounds I want to take off. So I may do something unusual with you. So one of my coaches may take you through and say, okay, you want to lose 8 pounds. Well, I'm going to take off 11 pounds. Well, I don't want to lose 11 pounds. Perfect. After we lose 11 pounds, I'm going to gradually increase your intake and actually have you gain 3 pounds back, because then you're at the top of your intake chart, which makes it so much more sustainable. So we may overshoot your maintenance goal, but we'll do it purposefully. So that way we actually gain up to your maintenance weight, which makes it exceptionally easier to sustain.
Okay. I love that.
I give you one more.
Go for it.
One of my most unique experiences, I had a gal who was going on one of the reality shows that are, survival type shows. And she hired me to slow her metabolic rate. So she was afraid that she was going to be hungry. Well, rightfully so. She was going to be hungry. So we worked with her and systematically acclimating her metabolism to actually slow down. And it worked because she went on the show and she actually did great. Her partner really struggled, but she did really, really well. And afterwards, she told me, she said, previously, if I went 3 hours without eating, I would get low blood sugar or a headache and because I had previously conditioned my metabolism, I made it through. Now, I'm certainly not advocating doing that sort of thing, but you can see that's my passion, is understanding how the metabolism can actually be influenced and changed. So it's really based on what each individual needs. And
that's really interesting just hearing you talk about that. So thank you so much for explaining that.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. So now we're going to go into someone's thinking, okay, all right, I get what you're saying. This sounds good. Sounds kind of what I need, but I don't want to be put on the Dwayne Johnson, maybe a toned down version of the Dwayne Johnson diet.
No, you have to. It's the Dwayne Johnson program.
Chicken, rice, vegetables. And, I see friends. I'm a social person. What am I going to do when I go out to eat? I don't want to just say, I'll have this, but without this and without that. What would you say to people there when it comes to, I don't want to just eat plain food all the time?
So I'll be honest. There always has to be balance. Believe it or not, I spend almost as much time convincing people that a splurge meal is okay, as long as it's not taken to excesses, as I do telling people, hey, you had a splurge meal yesterday and the day before, right? So there's a balance. And so it's really going to come down to how is your body responding? And that's going to dictate the conversation and the trajectory, but there's going to be some lines in the sand. There's going to be some compromises, and there's going to be give and take. So here are the wildly important elements. So here's what I want you doing. I don't want you to miss this breakfast, or I don't want you to, let's stick with these things as our anchors. Now, we want to work on improving this, and this, and then balance is key. So in the evenings, here are the negotiables, and here's what's reasonable and what you can get away with. So it's always a matter of give and take. At the end of the day, somebody comes back to me, and this is where, the specificity comes in from a standpoint of what is your goal? So somebody who is looking for muscular development and is on a up adjust phase, which I'm getting a little too granular here, but they're going to have a little bit more leeway. So what I'll do is I'll prepare a person in advance, because if it's go, 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 game time, 24/7, all week long, month long, year long, you will burn out. You have to do this in stages. So while we're in that up adjust phase, I will be preparing my client for, hey, here's the date. Now remember, on this day, you're going to give me 7 days. We're going to really dig in. So start planning the calendar. We want to make sure it's positioned well and it's not right in the middle of some travel or trip or weird activities that are going to prevent, though a lot of our clients do travel. They're able to make this work despite. And so just knowing where you're going really helps each person determine, okay, here's what I can do, here's what's sustainable, and here's what's not. Now, in response to food selection, that's not really a thing. So I'm never going to tell a client you have to eat chicken at lunch, because don't tell anyone. I don't like chicken. It's just not my favorite. I probably eat it once or twice. When my wife cooks it, it's awesome. When I cook it, it's brutal. I like fish, so I'll do fish a lot. But some people are like, oh, that's worse. What I'm interested in is if we determine your body needs X amount of protein to recover in this quadrant of the day, that is going to be, in my book, the non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. Where we source it, I'm going to provide for you a huge list of options, and you can pick whichever you want. No, by the way, I'm going to insist that you rotate things, because even if there's like, oh, I love lean turkey or lean ground beef. If you do that every day, you're going to get burnt out on it. So we're going to have to change things up. Okay. But the common denominator here is that we are being consistent with getting this macronutrient at roughly this part of the day. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yep. Nope, that does make sense. And thank you for explaining that. And then one other thing that your team told me is, if someone is going out to eat, this is just an added bonus, some of the trainers, and correct me if I'm wrong, will then look up the menu of where you're going and say, I would make, these are 3 things that I would suggest, which I thought was really, really cool.
Isn't that kind of neat? So we are a concierge coaching. So we work with a handful of people at a time, and we work very, very closely with them. So we have part of our team. Basically, when we get a request, and really this becomes relevant for travel, events. Hey, I'm going to be at this hotel. I'm going to be there for 3 days. I'm going to be attending this event. Our team will actually go in and do a radius search and figure out, okay, where are the best eating options? And with whatever we have to work with, we're going to do the best we can. And we'll provide a complete itinerary. You may not be able to follow this perfectly, but at least going, hey, there's that Starbucks on the corner I'm going to pass. I can go in, I can get their protein box in the morning, or there's this cafe that has, some salads and good options. And so we'll send our clients off with those. But what invariably ends up happening is it's part of the education. After a few months, like, oh, I know what to do. Mm-hmm. And then even clients that have been with us for years, sometimes that's why they're with us, is because they're like, oh, I got another travel. I didn't want to think about it. Just send me what I'm doing. They're like, oh, this is great.
Well, and I could see that being the case, that you, like, as with most things, you kind of get it after a certain period, and in a good way, I think, with this. In a lot of ways, with like calorie counting and obsessing about that, it can be bad when you kind of are looking at things and judging it. But this sounds like it's a healthy way to do it. And one more, actually, go on.
I'm so sorry. I was just going to interject workouts too. So a lot of our clients have great, we have routines we're rotating through, we're assigning them strategies. We actually have an entire running strategy section, but it's whatever the person is looking for. The variable, and this, a lot of people don't think about this, the variable is what access do you have? So we have some people who are traditionally used to, I go to the gym and I have full access. Other people who do their training programs from home, weight without equipment. Well, if we know where you're going to be, we can do the research on, hey, the hotel you're staying at, it has this type of gym, and it may only be partially equipped. So with the equipment you're going to have, here's temporary programming for you. Or, hey, I looked it up and where you're staying, you actually don't have gym access, which is just as important to know. So here you go. I'm going to send you a handful of workouts you can do right there in your hotel room, even just 10 minutes in the morning. So it's not
That's
just
great.
the food.
Yeah. No. Thank you for explaining that. I didn't know that part of it either. All right. What about someone who's saying, okay, this all sounds great, but I'm too busy to meal prep. I'm too busy to kind of figure out my healthy foods. It's just easier for me to just keep, making things on the go, eating, chips and salsa for lunch, things like that.
Yep. So that isn't someone saying that. That is everyone saying that. So that is the challenge. In fact, people ask me all the time, what do you do? And I say, I coach people through time management. That's the whole secret sauce. That is what we do. We help people with time management, because there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And it's not that the outcome is different. It's that the wrong way takes you too long. So those are the exact areas that we focus. So many of our clients, they travel, they're entrepreneurs, they're business professionals, and they're in a plane constantly. They're socialites, they're traveling. So this has to be portable. So kind of going back to some of those lifestyle techniques, the first thing we need to know about your lifestyle, because it's not going to be the same as the next busy person's lifestyle, and map that out. And then you're going to find that we're really big on time managed and portability. So it's going to start all the way back at like when you're home, what's the best way of grocery shopping? And there's little things that people don't think of. They think, okay, this is a healthy snack. That's good. So that's one box. There's 2 more boxes we have to check. The second box is it messy? Now I got to bring all kinds of stuff to clean up with. It's not going to work if I'm in a car. The third box is it portable and low perishable? You see, so we're trained to look at all those things because we have to find creative ways to go outside the box. Had a client that I worked with who actually this was a few years ago, but there was a piece in the Wall Street Journal about my work with him. He one of his investors in a company that was just going through the roof needed him to get healthy. They wanted to know that he was going to be a good investment, not just for his brain space, but his personal health. He'd be around for a long time. So they set him up with me. This guy, and I'm not exaggerating, he was in a plane 26 days out of the month. Wow. That's how much he traveled. So we rolled up our sleeves, and it was not easy. It was not perfect. But what we were able to do is piece together a complete strategy that was cohesive based on meals on the go and how best to order and what type of places you're going to look for. And we had all the major airports that he would frequent mapped out. And then we'd have some standard, like we know that you could find a Starbucks. So if you don't have this, or this available, then here's the Starbucks strategy. And we had micro workouts, 8 to 12 minutes that he would do in his hotel room. And he dropped 20 pounds. More importantly, he got his blood pressure down, and it was a great success story. He's not going to be on the cover of GQ, all right? It's just not going to happen. But he got healthy. He was successful. And that's the type of thing that warms my heart.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for sharing that, because I think that's another good example. All right. Now, this one, I'm interested to see how you do it. I kind of knew you'd handle the rest of them really well. But now, your TED Talk, which was from 2013, if I'm correct, you talked a lot about, our posture, the way that we're sitting. We have this kind of phone, the way that we're looking down at our screens. We're changing our posture, all about this.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go into this, but we've kind of come to where we probably won't get the chance to talk about it. But you're saying, in that video, you're saying about we spend too much time on our phones, it's changing our posture. But then here you are saying, use your phone more to use my service. So what is your response to that, to people to say, we're supposed to be getting away from our screens, we're supposed to be limiting our screens, but this makes me be on a screen longer?
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with that. No, our service is consulting. We use tools. If you're looking at my app for more than a minute and a half over the course of the day, you're probably doing it wrong. Okay. It's a tracking tool, an analytics. So what we get is real-time tracking, because it's like what is it? The phrase is necessity is the mother of invention. Am I saying that wrong? For years, I'd be doing consultations. And the first thing I say is, okay, this week we made some good progress. How did you eat? And they would always say, oh, pretty good. I have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
What is pretty good? So we've come up with just a really quick way of tracking in real time so I can see, and I'll get it on our back ends here. A little ding, Johnny finished this workout and here's what he did. Ding. Susie had her afternoon snack like we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we do our strategy sessions together, I'll have all of that information in front of me so I can see, well, it looks like there's some habits here. The habit is we're missing breakfasts. I can see that because I have your analytics there. But no, I don't want you on your phone for an excessive amount of time.
Okay.
That said, even back in the days where a lot of my time, because I worked in two different sides because of my personal history. I was big on the pain management and rehabilitation. And then in the athletic world, turns out that the same strategies to help somebody rehabilitate their center of gravity, their load-bearing mechanics, their posture and alignment, are also a lot of the same ingredients that go into helping build elite athletes. Now, we could do a whole nother podcast on that. You get me going. I'm very passionate about that. But suffice to say, what I have determined is that we are not going to change the course of humanity's march forward into the technological age. Computers and cell phones and technology, you might like it, you might not, but they are here to stay. Mm-hmm. So what we simply need to do is the maintenance on the back end. And so this comes down to the whole value of analysis. Years ago, one of the first things that we would recommend when somebody would come in or I would be coaching someone, hey, I would love to have you do, the old, the military model, push-ups and sit-ups and jumping jacks, because my grandparents did it and their grandparents did it, and that's the gold standard. Well, now when somebody comes in, I ban them from push-ups for the first 60 days. I'm exaggerating. I don't ban everyone from push-ups, but a lot of people, I encourage them not to do that. Why? I said, well, I'm actually going to assign you a very lopsided conditioning program at first because you're kind of coming to me lopsided. So if you're lopsided to start with and we do a balanced program, you're going to improve a little, but you're still going to be lopsided. Mm-hmm. So we have to counteract that. Okay, 30 days in, 6 weeks in, look at that. Heads upright, shoulders are back, feet are pointing forward. Now, how about those push-ups? So calculated. So we like to work all that in, and our programming reflects that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for explaining that. And I know that wasn't a nice thing to throw at you. All right, one other situation I want to ask you about is, this is a question from Liz, who is one of my Patreon members, who wants to know, are you equipped to recognize clients with disordered eating who come to you for weight loss? If not, why?
We certainly try. Okay. So one of the things that is very important to me is everybody, basically, when they're initially welcomed into the program, and let me say this, for disordered eating individuals, this program is probably not the best for you. Mm-hmm. But then there's a lot of people that their issue is more, I need some quality guidance that isn't extremes. I want good science-based guidance. That's who we're for. So we certainly try our best. We have registered dietitians that are that first contact for our clients coming in to review their history and catch all of those things. Now, while that does come up occasionally, there are other things that come up quite frequently because people, they're not trying to sneak something by us, right? They didn't realize, maybe the fact that I have this organ issue or my liver and kidney function isn't up to speed. They try to make us their doctor, and we have to remind them we are a lifestyle coaching program. Mm-hmm. And what we would love to see you do is work with medical professionals to address these issues, to get you squared away so that you can come back and work with us, because we can't wait to get to know you. We don't have to do that too often, right. But it does happen from time to time. And that's what the onboarding process is for.
Okay. Well, thank you for being honest. And even just saying, that you have said that a few times, that this may not be right for some people, which I think is admirable, because not every company or brand is able to admit that they very much kind of want to include everyone. So well done for saying that. Now, just one more little thing on the performance aspect of things. For someone listening who isn't interested in weight loss, but they really want to get something out of their running, they maybe have a big goal that they want to tune in and do all that they can without becoming, like we said, obsessed and just eating chicken, rice, and vegetables. What would you like to say to those people who maybe have a performance goal in mind with how you would work with them?
There's a lot of questions revolving around optimal recovery, and that is the secret sauce to pumping out best possible athletes we can. And we've had a lot of great athletes come out the other end stronger and fitter. So specificity again. So for example, a pro athlete calls me up, say, I want you to critically analyze my training program. And I say, okay, lay it out for me. And they show me, okay, over the course of the week, I'm doing 12 hours of training and I'm doing this, that, the other thing. I never go back to him and say, oh, that's a terrible exercise. What were you thinking? Thud, hit him in the forehead. No, this is all great. Here's the problem. If we've gone through an effective strategy session first, where we outlined exactly what our goals are, and if there's too many, we're not going to hit them. We've outlined what our today goals are. Then we can compare how you're allocating your time against those goals and come up with some real world actionable items. So often, even pro athletes, they'll come to me with a great training program, and I'll go back to them and I'll say, okay, look, over the 12 hours that you're training last week, 3 of them were directly correlative to improving your vertical jump, to improving your speed, to improving your endurance, whatever the case is. The other 9 hours were more auxiliary. So here's what I want to do. I just want to reallocate our investment of time, even if not forever, for a time period to really heighten and get the most out of your training. And some people, a lot of our clients actually have trainers and coaches that they are currently working with, and they're getting their programming from them. And what we're doing is just augmenting that data that they have and providing for them the optimal nutrition for the recovery, for getting to the next level. Other athletes come to us and they want us to do complete programming for them, and that is our secret sauce and our specialty, and we'd be honored to help you with that.
Okay, great. So for someone listening who says, "All right, I'm in," what's the next step?
Well, for this, I got to thank you. I think we're doing for your listeners just a special deal if they go to metpro.co/Tina. And so a complimentary consultation, which is actually with an expert. And what I would encourage you to do, if you go to metpro.co/Tina, sign up for there's 0 obligation. Sign up for a free consultation and be prepared to actually open up. I know that's the tough part, but you're not going to go to some automated line. You're going to actually talk with, I can name the 3 names you'd be talking with. You're going to talk to my friends who are going to say, let me get to know you. And the more open you are with them about where you're at and what you're looking to accomplish, what you've tried in the past, what's worked and what hasn't, the more they're going to be able to really dive into, here's what we think will work for you, or here's going to be our recommendations, and kind of walk you through what that experience would look like.
Great. Thank you so much for explaining that. And thanks for saying the link there. I was rounding out with that, but having you say it is much better. And I just want to ask you a few more questions that I ask all of my guests. I'm going to tweak them slightly for you. Okay. But starting with one piece of advice you'd like to give the listeners for life. For life, be honest and humble. Be honest and humble. The hands down, the hardest person, and I keep in mind, I'm always answering from the vantage point of coaching as my passion. The hardest person to be honest with is yourself in all cases. And the problem is, if your baseline is skewed, it's so much harder than to layer on rational conclusions and next steps and strategies and improve. So work on, first and foremost, honest with yourself. And humble is one of my favorite words, but it carries the reference to being teachable. Yeah. And whether that's in a coaching relationship or just in life in general, if you're teachable, you're always in a state of self-improvement. So if you're closed down to that, not so much. So be teachable. I love that. Thank you. That's great. All right. One person to follow on social media and why?
I'm going to let you down. Okay, so I only dabble in social media, but I have a great team that helps me that are way smarter than I am when it comes to technology. And so they put all the important stuff in front of me, and they help distribute our education and all that good stuff. But I will give you one name. One of my coaches, that one of my mentors, and I have many, but this is somebody particularly near and dear to my heart. His name's Michael Daphne. He wrote a book called Extraordinary. I get his newsletters every week, and every time I open one of his newsletters, it brings a smile to my face, sometimes a tear to my eye. He is one of the most real, candid people, writers, coaches you'll ever meet. And so I would definitely encourage you to give him a follow.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good choice. And I haven't heard of him, so I'll go look him up.
Yeah, please do.
All right. How do you want to be remembered on this show?
I'm that goofy guy. I'm that geek. My passion's teaching. I love when somebody can get a light bulb moment. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be life-changing, but just look at something maybe in a new light, or think of something in a way they hadn't before. And so I try to teach about the metabolism, about health, fitness, and body transformations as much as I can. So I'd love to be thought of as a teacher if I'm able to teach someone.
I'd absolutely say you lived up to that. And finally, what do you tell yourself before you're going to give a talk, a speech, a presentation? What is the narrative you say to yourself?
Why am I wearing this? I tell myself, no, this is the truth. I tell myself the same thing I tell my athletes and the people that I work with that go into competition or go into an event or go into, and that is, you have done everything you could do to bring yourself to this point. This day, this moment. You have prepared, you've put in the work. Whatever the outcome, you can hold your head high because you know you have prepared for it. You are bringing your best today.
That's so good.
That's all anyone can do, right?
Yeah, exactly right. No, I love that. Thank you to Roundup. All right, Angelo, thank you so much for coming on the show today, for just being humble, for sharing your knowledge with us, and just being real with us. So we truly appreciate you, and I hope my listeners go check out MetPro, metpro.co/Tina. And just look forward to kind of following along and hearing how they get on. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tina.
My friends, if you have a minute and you could leave a review on your favorite podcast player, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or whatever else podcast player you use to listen to this podcast. Or if you would subscribe to this podcast, you will help me get out in front of new runners to make our tribe even bigger and even better. It might not seem like you as one person can make a difference, but really it helps a lot. And it shows me you appreciate the hard work I put in for those. Thank you so much. Well, what did you think? I'm always a little nervous going into episodes where guests are selling something, because if you're not careful, it can just feel way too salesy. And I don't know about you, but that turns me right off. Angelo was absolutely not that though, and I learned a lot in that episode. I hope you did too. I would recommend going to watch his TED Talk if you haven't already seen it. You can find it in the show notes at tinamuir.com/episode 126. I can also email you the show notes every Friday if you want me to. Just email me, tina@tinamuir.com, and I'll make sure I do. All right, so you heard me talking about, or heard him talking about his program, MetPro. And in case it wasn't already obvious, MetPro is not interested in guessing what's going to work best for you, but they use your individual data and identify the best nutrition and training strategy for you. Your metabolism is constantly changing. I didn't know that at all, and it's adapting to your environment. So without us finding a starting point, it's hard to know what the right strategy is. Metabolic profiling enables us to get a baseline to see how our bodies are responding against different sets of variables. The experts at MetPro are trained to take those results and translate them into simple action steps: what you should eat, how you should train, what your strategy should be. Many athletes spend hours training every day, but fail when it comes to nutrition. If you can master your nutrition, you can take your performance to the next level. I absolutely agree with this. And MetPro is going to help arm you with the tools that are required to feed yourself as an athlete for the rest of your life. The coaches aren't just educated experts, but they're really empathic people that have demanding schedules and stressful times. I've spoken to them and I absolutely agree with this. They'll be there to guide you through the entire process and work with you on your terms. You can get a complimentary metabolic profiling assessment and a 30-minute consultation with a MetPro expert. You can claim this offer by going to metpro.co/Tina. That's metpro.co/Tina. A free consultation. What do you have to lose? Go check it out. Now, if you were wondering what the Patreon question was, Patreon is a way for you to support me and you pay a small amount each month. Most people pay $5 to $15, just a little thank you. And for that, I let you know who I have coming on the show and give you the opportunity to ask your question on the show. You can find a link in the show notes if you want to know more about that. Just wanted to mention that there. Finally, next week, I have a motivational story for you. Did you see a few weeks ago, there was a photo or maybe a video of a girl, an elite runner, crawling across the finish line of the London Marathon? No, not the Big Ben video, the elite marathoner that was going around the same day. That was elite Hayley Caruthers. And not only was she inspiring then as she kind of gave her all in that race, but her rise to being an elite is mind-blowing. She only started running in 2016, as in her first 5K run outside, not a race, but literally first run ever. And now she's run 71 minutes and a half, 2:33 in the marathon, and is literally one of Britain's most promising up-and-coming athletes. I have Hayley and her coach Dan on the show, and it's quite the story. So be ready for that one and have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the Running for Real podcast. Be sure to check out tinamuir.com for show notes and even more helpful running information.